I typoed. I put in GitGo, but I put a space in it. By the time I took the space out, it autocorrected GIT to GET. So please, if you got that email, it's not GETGO, it's GITGO. So sorry. I'm going to follow my sword now. So in addition to not getting people's jobs, titles, names, or anything else correct, I can now flub up typing as well. So as an excellent co-host, I'm going to throw this over to Amy and let her take us down the path of everything GitGo. So Amy, take it away.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me. It's so good to be back. It was early in the pandemic that I joined a couple of these and just had a lot of fun. I guess you could call me a talking head back then, but it's exciting to be on the show and just share a little bit about what we're doing, what we're seeing out there. So my experience and area of expertise is in the sales. GitGo is a B2B focused team. We do new business development primarily is our focus. And I've worked quite a bit with Lily and Stephanie, and I know Adele and Dean and I met at an HSMAI event, which seems like a decade ago, but It was only in January. Like so much has changed since then. So anyway, it's great to be here. I want to just, talk all things sales and marketing today. Obviously, I think that's why people jump on the show, and talk about, what we're seeing. I see a lot of folks struggling with when it comes to new business development. So the landscape has really changed. We've gone from being flooded with inbound inquiries and RFPs at the property level to now seeing that pretty much coming to a screeching halt in a lot of markets. Granted, some markets are seeing some uptick now, and we're seeing green shoots of hope here and there all over the place. But we have been, diving in the trenches since the beginning of all of this and long before it. My message hasn't changed. It's always been about proactive. New business development needs to be a consistent process for your sales team. And so today, I think it's really given us the opportunity as an industry to realize that that is true. Right now, you cannot survive without being proactive and reaching out. But there's a lot of questions out there on how do you do that and still remain authentic and not be tone deaf to what's going on. We haven't done it before. We haven't had to do it before, a lot of teams are saying. So where do we start? How do we start? So I wanted to, kind of just engage and interact with you all and allow you to ask questions, because that's when I can give the best kind of, I guess, direction, and just to have a great discussion around this whole idea around how do we become more proactive? How does that, I'd love to hear from you guys on how does that interact or collaborate with your areas of expertise as well, and just see how we can help people to maybe frame the story differently today.
I will leave it open to the floor before I start jumping in. I have a question.
I just wonder if, the starting point is really in a way to abandon, perhaps, or as just like it's a blank slate, whatever your market segments were before and whatever you thought was your business before. I mean, sure, you should go back to those people and personally see how everybody's doing. But I think we all need to be creating new market segments for things that are actually happening, that we see out in the universe, that have nothing to do with anyone that's ever been in our hotel before. And this is, I think, a tremendous challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's, as we're discovering too in our outreach to new opportunities, there's definitely certain industries, certain types of companies that are traveling right now. You've got construction, healthcare, manufacturing, and we've actually just recently put out an infographic on that, on what has actually booked over this time period, and the consumed business, and then what is booking for future for like the next 3 months out. And it's fairly consistent in the types of industries that we're seeing, the ones that I just mentioned, although we drill it down a little bit more into inside of manufacturing, what exactly does that mean? I think there was chemical manufacturing, and very specific. So you can then look inside of your backyard and your feeder markets and your drive markets to see what's out there for you. And I think it's really important for teams to be just paying attention to what's going on in your particular market and thinking outside the box. Not, obviously it's not about what you used to have. It's and maybe even what's there today, but what does the opportunity look like moving forward into the future? So it's a combination, and you're absolutely right. You just have to, take a step back and really review what's happening in your particular market or in your segment of hotel.
A lot of sales offices are divided up by location, by market segment, etc. And I just wonder if it still makes sense to divide markets like that, or if it just makes sense, just everybody just go be creative, get out there and think of anything you can, anything to ring them bells. Have you seen any particular kind of sales structure that's working better now than maybe it was in the past?
A lot of companies are going to more of a centralized sales team and focusing a team on proactive outreach, call it hunter, if you will, and then account management. And their goal is more to keep and manage a particular portfolio of accounts and then grow that business. So I think that there's definitely an opportunity right now. There's things that you have to do now in the short term, and you may not be able to exactly see how to formulate your team, right? But getting first things first, if you have a team in place, getting them to be proactive and ensuring that they have the skills and the tools to do that. And that you're constantly communicating with your team and inside of your organization to talk about what they're seeing, so you can keep track of, insights and feedback from customers and what's working and what's not working. And then looking, as sales leaders, obviously I see a lot of them looking at, okay, what does it look like for the future of our team? There's nobody that, in certain instances, there is no team, right? They don't have salespeople in place right now. And so, but they're working on the plan of how does that look for us for the future when we do bring people back, or are we going to outsource, and where does it make sense to do that? And so I think it's a combination. And because we work with chains as well as like management companies and then individual properties, owners, operators, it's what I see happening at each level is very different, right? So at the property level, at the basic property level, the reality is sellers aren't spending 100% of their time selling. They may be working front desk and wearing many hats at the property. And so when they are working, my challenge to them is they have to be proactive. They're not receiving a flood of inbound inquiries. And so aligning their time and their focus on the outreach piece is really important.
Amy, do you know Ben?
Hi, I'm super sorry.
Ben.
Hi, I'm super sorry I was a little bit late. We've just had the handover of the kids because it's late afternoon here. I did put my earphones in to try and catch the start of it, and the only thing I heard was Lauren get Dean Schmidt's company wrong again. So I just hung up. I was like, no, I can't be dealing with that. I'll join the call later.
That's all right, Ben. I got everybody's company wrong. So
I don't doubt that.
Andy,
I think we should have a new rule. Every time you get someone's company name wrong, we change your surname to a different colour. So for the rest of this meeting, you can be Lauren Pink. You can redeem yourself at the end.
That's what I am. Yep. So now I'm down different colour for it. So how's New Guinea? How's everything in New Guinea?
Well, I'm super confused because it said Stuart Butler on the side, and then I looked on my screen. I was like,
Stuart? He got better looking. He got really better looking.
I was going to say,
much
you went
smarter
into this,
too, but I might say, brilliant now. He's brilliant now.
You went into this escape room in your house and popped out a cogwheel.
I know. I stole his link this morning. So.
Yeah, I again, it's just to add stacking on how much I can screw things up. Somehow I missed Stephanie in the presenter link list this week. So I'm batting 1,000 here. I'm like, if I'm going to go all bad.
All out.
Hey, we're doing this on a Friday. I feel like we need to make a drinking game out of it. Every time Lauren gets one of those wrong, we got to.
Oh, no, you wouldn't live. You wouldn't live. You would not live.
But boy, it'd be fun.
Alcohol poisoning would be a part of your life, okay?
Dean, Lauren's about 9 feet tall and about 600 pounds. I think we'd all have severe alcohol poisoning before he even hiccuped.
Yeah, I mean, I might get a little buzz, but that's about as far as I'm going to go.
Anyway, Amy, I'm very sorry. I wasn't late. I was late. Please continue. I've got your website open up here, and I'm really excited to see more about
Well, I would like to ask Amy one more question. Of all the skills that you coach people in, what do you think, if as a director of sales and marketing, what are the skills I really want to focus on? Let's say, especially if I'm using people for sales that might really be doing other things, like maybe the reservations manager is now getting involved in sales, or the banquets manager is now getting involved in sales. What is it that you feel is the most important skill to focus on right now for the team?
Overall, I'd say the skill of being proactive, but there's a lot to that. And so I'll just say that understanding that the blueprint of somebody who can not only enjoy being proactive, but can sustain it and do a fantastic job at it is really critical. So one of the things that we do with our partners and inside of our own team is we actually measure the blueprint of the person. We want to make sure that we have the right person in the right seat. And there is a certain makeup that we want to look for in somebody that can be proactive. And that is, I'm going to describe it in a way that might seem a little bit gray to a lot of people, but we have a Colby certified expert on our team that utilizes this assessment and can dive in and do an interpretation on the assessment that comes back to us. And one of the things that we found consistently with the team of ours that is really strong at hunting for new business is they are not afraid of going into a conversation cold and not knowing the outcome. And if you think about that personally, right, a lot of folks, and I didn't realize this because I score really high in this area. This is why I can come on a show like this and I'm just like, great, ask me whatever, like, let's just go for it. There's a certain type of person that can deal with that and that can do it very well and that can, have this authentic way of communicating with people and kind of work off the cuff. And we want to measure that. We want to be able to see, can this person handle that? Because for a certain group of people, that is very uncomfortable. There's a lot of pressure in doing that, and they need it more structured and more outlined. And it would drag them down, right? It's just like, I know, Lily, you guys use strengths finders inside your company, and it's just like looking at the list of the top strengths of somebody. In a sales hunter role, you want somebody who's really great at activating. They want to get things started. They want to kick it off. They have great ideas. They're able to relate with others and be able to listen well, take information, and then apply that to what they're selling, basically, right? What they can share, they can connect the dots easily. And so that's what we look for in terms of a proactive salesperson who can really jump in, as opposed to an account manager, right, who needs to have some get up and go, right? But they are about maintaining relationships. They're relators. They're able to they want to grow the business. Obviously, they need to grow year over year, quarter over quarter, but they really need to dive in and get to know somebody and get to understand what the true needs are in detail of that customer, and then connect it with what they can deliver. So it's more of I'd say today, the true skill that you need to look for is somebody who is unafraid to jump in and have conversation and reach out and not know what to expect, not be afraid, not be fearful of what comes on the other side, not be hindered by, oh gosh, somebody got upset with me because I reached out. I saw a post on LinkedIn. Somebody said that they reached out to a VP of sales, and this VP of sales got angry with them because they found their name on Zoom info. And her response was, I guess they never had to cold call to get to be a VP of sales before. But it just reminded me, like, if you don't have that blueprint of somebody who that's not going to deter you, then you might see your salesperson completely change direction and then adjust and start to stop reaching out in that manner just because of one situation or maybe a couple situations, right? Where they got blasted for reaching out and somebody was, they had a bad day.
Well,
right?
Considering what you just said, I think all of us on this show have more midichlorians than Yoda does. Because I think all of us pull into that category. Sure, put me in the middle of the nowhere and I'll be happy to talk. So with that being said, I do have a question as relates to the contrast that salespeople are being put into, and just to see which side you look at better for this. I know specifically to Lily, I would have to say this. Convergence is a big deal. The aggregation of things between the disciplines, marketing, sales, revenue management, the collaboration, the symbiotic relationships, the sharing of data, and all this stuff. That being said, with the diminishment in bandwidth of resources, salespeople are being asked to really cross over in a lot of stuff. Do you feel it is better for salespeople now and in future tense to be that racehorse that does one thing? Don't plow the field, run the race. Just you're a racehorse, be a racehorse. Be a hunter, whatever it is, and don't get dragged into I got to participate in marketing strategy. I got to participate in revenue strategy. I got to go over and add my sales strategy to what they're. How do you see the sales ecosystem working with this convergent requirement? But also, are we really taking a racehorse and putting it in the plow field?
That's a great question. I think that there's this move to commercial strategy at the high level that's really important to consider and look at. I do think that you need to have, as you would put it,
Amy, I really want to hear this answer, so I'm going to tell you. You're dropping out for me here.
I'm like, wait.
This is the best clickbait ever. Just pretend you've got a really bad connection.
I'm sorry, could you say that over again with more feeling.
I totally lost you guys. My apologies. You can hear me now, right?
We got you.
Yeah, we're good.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I think overall commercial strategy is really important, and your sales leadership needs to be collaborating, revenue management, marketing, and some companies might be going to more of a commercial strategy position that oversees that. When it comes to sales, though, I really do think if you're going to do it well as an organization, that you do need to have a racehorse type mentality, and your sellers need to have a clear direction. And I think that, reality and what needs to be may not hit today or for a little while, because we're talking about companies being strapped for cash and how do you do it with the limited resources. But where I do see things headed is, I firmly believe that we have created sales roles and expected them already to wear too many hats in certain aspects. In terms of what I see happening at the property level is sellers have to be all things, in terms of they have to do lead generation. They have to manage existing customers. They have to go in and utilize all the different inbound inquiry tools that we have. And we've done a good job at the inbound inquiry piece. We've kind of created a pretty solid system for dealing with that. What we haven't done is created a solid system for proactive outreach. And it's because we're missing some critical links. We're missing sales enablement tools that can help them do that better. The lead generation piece, the reason it gets so clunky is because in the past, sellers have been so wrapped up in responding quickly to the inbound inquiries and keeping up with the requirements of how quickly you get back to the customer. There's their brands have these requirements, 24-hour response, all that. And that is fantastic. You can't do away with that. But in the proactive piece, we are getting confused. And we did this whole study that I presented on in January, long before this ever happened, looking back at 3 years of data on when you find a customer, how long does it take? How much engagement do you have to have? And then how long does it take before they actually convert to revenue? It's 7+ months out on average. 77% of the revenue that you uncover during your proactive strategy is going to be set. And so the hard part is that you actually, if you don't have a process in place for your sellers to navigate with that customer during their buying journey, that's where things fall through the cracks. And you lose all that revenue opportunity. So 77% of all business that we uncovered over a 3-year period that was sales qualified, right? So it meant that we knew when their next opportunity would be, and they were interested in the property, they were interested in the brand, they were a fit, they were a scope fit. 77% of that opportunity was 7+ months out.
Quick question.
That's
What
huge.
was the frequency pattern of the communication during that 7 months? Did that get tracked as well?
Yeah, so we have a cadence that we follow and we're constantly adjusting it. But there's between 7 and 12 touch points over that period of time. And it varies because the longer you go, 7 months, it's not just one touch point a month necessarily. It eventually can be a little longer cadence. But the thing is how can you expect one salesperson at the property level to keep up with that level of communication? The reason they've never done it before, because they've never created a robust pipeline. I'm talking in generalities, right? But with our customers, we put hundreds of sales opportunities into their pipeline. There's no way one person can manage that. if they don't have some automation built in, if they're not working with marketing on making sure there's content and that they know where that content is being posted and how it's, being delivered out to the B2B audience. We're expecting one person, in fact, maybe one team to do all the B2B marketing and sales without any enablement, without any automation. And that's the gap that we have right now.
Amy, I'm really curious to Lauren's point. Do you find, because I feel like most hotel salespeople, and I don't know this for a fact, it's just kind of the feeling I get from talking to them, maybe aren't even using a cadence at all. So I'm curious, when you first come into hotels, is that what you find? And now that you have this coaching program, is that like a big part of what you're finding that you need to coach hotel salespeople on?
Yeah, there's no cadence because usually at first there's not a pipeline. So, they might have one or two things that they think they're working on, and they're setting a reminder in the CRM to say, oh, don't forget to call this person, email this person on such and such date. But absolutely, it's the biggest question I get once we start rolling and building that. It's how do we keep up with this? What is the cadence? And so I'll say it's a lot more frequent than most sellers are used to, and we get a lot of resistance initially. And I say right up front, even in our coaching program, I just recorded a follow-up and nurture video for inside of it. And right up front, I said, this is where you're going to resist the process the most if you've never done this before. Because it's, like I said, 7 to 12 touch points on average. And in the initial touch points, we just built one out for a company. It's, within hours of discovering the connection, right? Engaging with somebody, and they say, yeah, we're a scope fit. We've got a lot of interest in the property or the brand. It's getting something in front of them as quickly as possible. We know that, customers respond. Maybe they won't respond to it, but they'll actually open it and read it if it happens within hours or, as fast as possible. Ideally, you're sending it to them while you're on the phone, right? And then the next message is within 48 hours. And the next after that is within 72. And then it's 5 days, 10 days, just kind of give you an idea. And then eventually they get put into a 30-day cadence.
Real quickly, you're really talking from a marketing perspective, a little bit of workflow from a CRM perspective from our side of things. And it's based, and I'm wondering, the question I would have is it based on the date of inquiry as to what they're looking at because the initial frequency is, of course, for solidifying the communication. We do that ourselves with CRM. It's like based on interest, we create a frequency over a short duration to solidify the communication in the long term. But if the interest is far enough out, our frequency pattern is much more dispersed because we're not looking to be invasive. We're looking to be mindful. But if it's a shorter interest, our cadence, to take your word, and frequency is a little bit more pronounced because we have a shorter window to cumulatively create the communication link between them. Is that how you kind of approach this? Is one of the benchmarks of the cadence that you say is about what their query interest is, and then from there you step back past the initial conversations?
It can be tailored, obviously, yes, especially when you're having the sales qualified conversations and you're getting more information back. But what tends to happen in these initial conversations where we're qualifying and quantifying is there's a lot more customers that I would consider marketing qualified or at a low level of sales qualified. So we have, one thing I should mention is we have a lead scoring system. And so we teach our coaching clients and all the clients that we work with this lead scoring system. So based on the score is where we, put that funnel together, that workflow together. And then obviously you're going to have those one-off specifics where this is a tailored communication need. And at certain points within that communication, that workflow, there's going to be triggers from the customer's behavior that says you need to take it out of that workflow and customize. So that long answer, but we do.
Well, two more variables. Yeah, you're adding more variables than what we have to add for transient. We're just talking about frequency of communication. You're talking about qualification and verification and interest based on response. So yeah, two more variables to the flow. Sorry, Dean, I cut you off when I was asking that.
Well, I was curious. We talked about that 7-month timeline or that window. How have you seen that change pre-COVID and post-COVID? So people that you're starting conversations with today, what is that timeline? Is that still a 7-month window, or what do you see people planning for?
I think there's more uncertainty today, right, where clients can't necessarily share their timing. And so they get pulled into more of the marketing qualified where there is no timing attached. So in our scoring system, timing comes in closer to the end, like depending on how you look at the funnel, right? Closer to the bottom end of the funnel is where timing comes in. We're having conversations. We call it the hidden revenue zone. So in the hidden revenue zone, typically there's not necessarily a set time frame. I would caveat that though, because a lot of the conversations we're having now are with essential travel, because we're trying to get, to the low hanging fruit and things that are mattering today to clients. And so when we're having those conversations, some of that is pretty quick, right? If we're able to uncover. So it's not all, there's still 11% or thereof that are telling us, yeah, we actually need to see more information about this hotel because we do have a need coming up and that it's in a couple of weeks. So
that's the other thing.
I just kind of weighed that.
That's the other thing I was curious about. You touched on it earlier a little bit, but I was wondering if you could expand on it. Yeah, or the question of who is booking? Where are you seeing these conversations happening right now? Like that example of somebody that has something in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, extended stay and economy level hotels are, we're seeing the most opportunity that fits into their typical customer. Obviously, all hotels are focusing on that. So they're trying to protect that business from the hotels that normally wouldn't take that business. But we're finding, a lot of construction crew, and that's both commercial and property level construction, as well as, so commercial is a big part of that. Manufacturing, so manufacturers are having, crews coming in to clean, to optimize tools, mill rights, that type of a thing. We're seeing transportation, all types of transportation, trucking, those types of companies, medical, obviously, medical related. Trying to think at the top of my head. I wish I would have.
I was like, the other segment that catch me was the marketing and advertising agencies were like in the number 3 bucket. So Lauren, you gotta get out and start traveling because we're supposed to be on the road right now.
Supposed to be on the road. Got to be on the road. Hey, by the way, I'm terribly sorry. Edward StOnge from Flip2 and Kat Mohammed, which will be giving us an update as to what she's doing these days. But for now, we'll just say Kat Mohammed. I don't know if you both know Amy, but Amy, Ed, and Kat.
Amy, I was wondering, based on some of the things that you said, and we were discussing, of course, Lauren's question regarding, should you keep a strong salesperson only in their lane, focused on their strength? And, first of all, I want to say, when I went to my first HSMA meeting when I was 18 years old in the fall of 1980, I was the shyest person in the entire planet. I was the shyest child in the entire planet. So I think a lot of the skills that you talk about are a muscle that can be flexed. And the only thing that gave me the strength to, when I went to that HSMA meeting and I saw all these bold, confident, wonderful, charming people, everybody ready to help each other. And I thank goodness I ever went to that, because HSMA has given me so many wonderful things, including meeting Lauren and so many of you wonderful people that I wouldn't have known otherwise. But I said, I'm not like that, but I want to be like that. And I think that can be coached. And it was coached. And I remember when I was very young, someone said to me, you know, some of my best friends have been the clients that I've had. And I made those clients when I walked into a door that I didn't know who was going to be behind it. So that always really helped me be brave and want to get through more doors, because you never know what wonderful people you're going to meet on the other side. And also it talks a lot about the nurturing of the relationship, which is part of the that cadence and everything that you talk about. And I think Holly also says don't say hunters, say, you know, nurturers or you know, I don't remember what word she says, but she says it a little differently. The thing is, there is one thing that I wish that sales managers would all get out of their silos about, and that is social media. I think that social media is one of the most important ways of communicating and keeping relationships open and putting yourself out there in the eye of your customer without necessarily, you know, picking up the phone and call them. That is something that could keep the relationship alive in between, just as it does in our personal relationships. And especially on LinkedIn, every sales manager should learn how to be a thought leader on LinkedIn, an active person on LinkedIn, keeping their relationships alive on LinkedIn, and engaging with new people that they want to become friends with. And it's just amazingly effective. Don't you find that to be the case? Or how would you help people get over that hump of saying, no, that's for other people, I only make sales calls?
Yeah, no, I think LinkedIn is a fantastic tool that you have to use in sales, no matter what industry. You know, if for B2B sales, LinkedIn is the place to be. It's the place to keep up on what's happening with your customers, but also to nurture those relationships. And part of the cadence that we teach actually involves LinkedIn as one, because we talk a lot about proactive outreach and nurture and follow up. I look at it as there's multiple tactics that you have to use. We're not just talking about phone. We're not just talking about email. What about social media? It's all about impressions, right? So I just look at sales as how you have to get so many impressions in front of that customer to build your own personal brand, because people only buy from who they know, like, and trust. So how are you going to create those impressions? But at the same time, you're the ambassador for your brand, for your hotel, for your company. So you go hand in hand, right? So in your LinkedIn profile, make sure that that is accurate and that it puts the brand that you represent in the best light, but also yourself. The posts that you post are great, but then also, how do you ask for connection on LinkedIn, right? How are you reaching out? Is it just clicking the button and hoping that they say yes? And then once they do say yes, what are you sharing rather than pitching, right? It's not about a pitch, and that's the key. We don't want to be the spammers. Like, I get so many people that try to request to network with me, and then immediately they go into my message box and pitch me that we need to have a meeting about XYZ product. And we all know, like, it becomes a cesspool, Nobody wants that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So how
It's
do you
actually
add value?
on channels like LinkedIn and even email, spammers are more of a competitor to a salesperson than actual businesses that compete with the business they're representing. The noise that's made by these uncreative, high volume touches,
Automation.
yeah, it
Mhm.
really is way more impactful on you as a salesperson than your direct competitor, because it desensitizes people. They ignore quality communications because they ignore all communications.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'll use my golf voice. This is the longest world record for Ed to not have spoken since he joined the show.
Well, meanwhile, I'm over here making a mental list of all the things I want to add and questions, trying to be polite, letting other people in. But
Sorry,
I'm on the live show. I've been off for a couple of weeks, so I forgot you're not supposed to be polite on this show. So I'm just going to go ahead and bully my way in here. So, Amy, I want to go back to what Dean was asking about whether or not the cadence has changed, because in my experience, right now the cadence is maybe not as well defined, but it's almost going to be longer, I feel like, because if people can't meet in 7 months, or they can't know that they'll be able to meet in 7 months far enough out to actually do the planning that's required for groups and meetings, coronavirus is naturally pushing that window to be longer, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you shouldn't be fostering those relationships, because people are going to book with, as you said, people they know and trust. And if you become that trusted advisor and friend now, you're in a much better position to capture that business when they're ready to travel, that they may not even go to the RFP stage. Do you agree with that?
Totally. One of the things that we talk a lot about is the trusted advisor piece. So in the B2B space, especially when you're talking about the small and mid-sized companies, they need a trusted advisor in the travel space now more than ever, because there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of uncertainty. Everybody's throwing out their cleanliness standards and everything else, but having that personal connection for them inside of the industry is really critical. And you can totally stand out right now by having, by building and fostering those relationships. So absolutely. I do agree that, yes. So the 7+ months, I think, for people to stop thinking about 0 to 3 months is just that needs to happen first, right? We get confused, this booking window, it's only because the client has already taken all that time to do their own research that you see the booking window as short. Yes, sometimes companies have things that pop up that are one-off, that they need an immediate, like I'm the admin, I just found out we're doing this meeting and I've got to find a solution for it. But most of the time, what we're finding in the behavior of the B2B customer, especially in the small and mid-size category, who is the companies that are traveling right now, they're having lots of conversation and doing research long before they reach out to a hotel. So if you're just sitting around and waiting for them to come to you, you're relying on that 3% basically that's ready to buy at any given time. It's not sustainable. So you have to be having the discussions up front. And in my mind, like what I share with people is it doesn't matter if it's 6 months out or 2 years out, because a lot of companies have no idea when you first start talking. What you need to know is, do they travel? Do they use hotels? Do they anticipate having needs in the future? And if they do, then okay, well, what does that look like for you? And we're having conversations more around how new company, and we've never spoken with them before. How is this impacting your business and your travel today? What did it look like before all this? What do you think it's going to look like in the future? Do you have any, maybe their business does have needs. We have to remember there's a lot of companies that are still thriving through this and actually traveling and spending money right now. So not assuming that everybody is on hold, but just asking that question. And then, you know, having a plan to continue to build that relationship, because we have a lot of case studies on opening the door to a conversation where the company says, oh, we really don't have anything. Like, we plan one meeting a year and it's in 2 years. And then suddenly 3 months down the road, they're saying, you know what, we do have people that need, it's not a meeting, it's not the event we talked about, but we have a project and we need 10 people to come into the market, like in, 30 days. How can you help me? But they reach out because they've already been in touch with you and they're seeing your stuff come across their desk. There's even a study that says, and I'm not going to be able to quote it because I can't remember, I think it was a Harvard Business Review study, and decision makers inside companies have said that it takes 6 times for them to see something come across their desk before they'll take action. So at least 6 impressions from you, your brand, your company have to get in front of them before they're ready. Like, they're watching. They might not be engaging and interacting, but they're watching. And I'm a perfect example of that. I have an inbox of certain vendors that have reached out to me over the course of a year at least, that I'm saying, okay, I don't need you now. I'm not there yet, but I have to remember, like, this is the tool I'm probably going to want to use. I keep watching them.
And like, further to that, mathematically, yes, it is around 6 touches if they're good. and this is so incredibly important, because this whole programmatic selling that kind of caught wild in the last 7-8 years, growth hacking type stuff, that whole process really ruined a lot of things. But understand that sometimes you may be communicating with someone and they may be somewhat interested, but not completely understand that you solve a problem that they're currently wrestling with. So thoughtfulness in how you communicate, thoughtfulness in what you put out there to them, that is, really thinking, like, what problems are they dealing with right now that potentially I could just give a little something that not only sparks starting to solve a problem for them, but sparks an engagement because they realize, you know what, this person who's been filling my inbox, respectfully over the last couple of months actually may be able to solve this issue I'm currently wrestling with. And it's a form of sales that I've always trained to any salespeople that I've trained up, is you give to get. If your approach to sales is a thoughtfulness of, I will not receive anything if I give no value, and you adopt that in a multi-channel approach, social media, email, introductions, there's give to get builds really strong starts to relationships. And then if you're not shallow and you actually care about, the people you interact with, you can build a really strong bond with the people you work with. And it all starts with that. If you want someone to engage with you, it's not what you're selling. It's not, what you're trying to accomplish. It's what can you help them with? And if you always start from that angle of, I'm not trying to convince you I can help you because you don't know the problem that you have. It's, I know you're probably wrestling with this challenge. Here's some helpfulness.
I might be a little
great
sneaky
language.
about this.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go, Amy. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, great language to use in those discussions is, in our experience in working with similar types of companies, these are the things that they've shared with us that they're struggling with. And if you are struggling with this same thing, here's how we've helped in the past. Like, that type of language is really critical that we need to be sharing with sellers in hospitality. I learned that language as an entrepreneur. that no one trained that to me in hotel sales. I was trained after I left hotel sales and started my own company. And I've been applying some of those learning lessons into our coaching that we do and what we work on with our clients. The other thing I was going to say about that is knowing your audience is critical and building those insights. And I think this is where marketing and sales can truly collaborate and talk to one another, because one thing I'm finding is a lot of companies are going after small and mid-sized business right now because the large B2B is, they're not traveling. And it's those backyard, that drive market businesses, the construction, all those industries that we've been talking about, their behavior and the insights that you can glean from them is really important as you're building out your value and how you approach those customers and what you tell them you can do for them, because their careabouts aren't necessarily the same careabouts as, the Fortune 100 companies.
95% of the emails that I get say, I have a tool that can help you increase your customer satisfaction. If customer satisfaction is important to you, or if review scores are important to you, or whatever it is, let's set up a time and I'll tell you what I can do for you. And this is ridiculous. I'm not going to answer them because I still don't know what they do, and I don't have time for that. Especially when I was VP of Library Hotel Collection and working unbelievable hours every day of the week, and traveling, I don't have time for that. I only have time for people who I know exactly what it is that they are doing, and I have some idea of what it might cost, because I don't want to waste my time on something that costs $30,000 when I know that I don't have money for that. If you tell me that it's going to cost, less than $200 a month, I have time to talk, to discuss what the possibility is. And the other thing is, I want to understand what your needs are, and then I'll tell you what I can do for you. I don't have time for that.
Did you read that website?
The ones I can't stand are the ones that just say, I want to connect with you. They just send you the connect and no message, no nothing. We've got no shared groups or contacts or anything. Look, I'm pretty liberal with who I connect with on LinkedIn. I'm probably more open on that than I should be. But you got to give me something.
I have made one exception to that.
Mobile. If it's on your phone, it doesn't invite you to add something, or at least not on my phone. But when I go on the computer, it always invites me to say something, and then I will. But sometimes something will just pop up for me on my phone. Oh, connect to this person, and I'll connect, and I go, oh, they already sent it. I didn't say anything.
Yeah. I have made one recent exception to my LinkedIn list, and that is students looking for positions. I have allowed people that are students in Cornell, in Stanford, whatever, that are looking to create connections. I have no relevant connections with them, but I see them trying to build. And for one of my first rules, no profile image, no connection. Sorry. If you can't take the time to build your profile up, even if there's nothing really to put there other than your picture and your aspirations, I have no time for you, regardless of whether you have 500 plus followers or not, because as Ed points out, there's a lot of traps out there. But if there's a student and or somebody that's looking for a position, and I think my network, because they're actively looking for something, can help them connect with people, I've started adding them into my group of people. I never used to do that before, not because I was trying to be cold or callous, just I just didn't. My LinkedIn was one of my purest connections. Either I worked with you, or you're in the industry, or has something related to what I'm doing in combination with people. And that was my criteria. Nothing outside of that really came in. Now I'm expanding it to a little bit of those. But I'd like to add one other comment to this. Is I think I'm a little bit sneakier. There's some great technology that Amy's pointed out, and she's gone. Is to that there's technologies that I try to, I wouldn't say pounce, but with my clients, I try to work with them on opportunistic views of what your clients are going through. There's technology out there. You can tell when companies are looking for something because of a downturn in what's happening with them, and or something that they're coming up on and they're needing to do stuff. You can find that out relatively directly and be well timed in your messaging, not just the frequency and the commonality and all that other stuff, but really like catch them. What is it? The norm out of Cheers, the herd mentality, the weaker ones fall in the back. Just when they're falling off, that's when you can get them. The ones that need something is a good time to reach out to them. So there's technology to be able to do that. I don't know what happened.
Kind of talking, more to this is, and actually what made me think of it is Ellis Connolly, who's talking in our comments right now. Ellis is probably one of the best people at content strategy on LinkedIn that you've ever seen. And that repetitive action of Ellis is always in my news feed. He's always talking about something relevant. Not all of it is hugely involved either. He's not building giant pieces of content, but he is adding value, but he's also instigating conversations. LinkedIn is a great place to instigate a conversation and then watch who likes and comments, and you'll all of a sudden see that you're actually building a start of an interaction through that. I'm with Lauren. My LinkedIn is a bit liberal. It's Facebook is my pure audience. If you're on my Facebook, I consider you more of a friend than I consider you a business connection. But on LinkedIn, you'll find every now and then I'll drop something that shares a little bit about me. And if you actually look, those are my posts that get the most engagement. When I talk about having a tough day that, I didn't want to do, but I overcame it, or, things like that gets a ton of interaction. Because let's not forget, everyone you're trying to interact with is a human who's trying to do the best they can. And if you remember that, you remember sales isn't about tricking someone or, pushing someone into something. Sales is a light form of friendship making. That's why it appears some adults are naturally good at it. It's just they learn the skills younger than others. But ultimately, sales is about human connection. People don't buy things initially just based off of I want to buy this thing. They tend to buy from people they like to hear from, people they like to interact with. That's a huge part of the buying decision. So that means you can't just be going straight at it. You can't just be spamming Adele with I want to sell you this thing. You need Adele to understand you're a good person that will probably give her a laugh or two. And you know what? If she needs something, she can call you and you'll give her time, right? That's actually how you build a quality sales funnel, is by having lots of different pieces like that. And there are multiple people on this show that have seen, like, I have a policy of, if you come to me and ask for something, I will give you my time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, with nothing in it.
Ben doesn't do that. Ben's turned selfish.
Eventually, like, it all comes back around. I believe in the karma of business. If you just put good out in the world and you help someone, it all comes back around. And a lot of the people on this show are that way. I've had many interactions where either I've come to you for help, you've come to me for help. And guess what we always tend to do? We always tend to help each other. Because we're always thinking of each other because of the interactions we have. It's building a network of people that you enjoy, that you can either help or they can help you, or the two of you together can help someone else completely. That's building a sales network. It's really a network of professional friends.
Yeah. We can't talk about anything more than that.
I can vouch for Ed on that, because I remember one of the last conversations we had when we were discussing our big idea and some of the help you'd given me. And on the back of, my previous experience in the industry, I think towards the end of the conversation, I snapped at you and said, "What's in this for you?" And you just went, "Nothing." And I was like, I feel like I've signed into a pyramid scheme by accident here. What do you want? So yeah, and it definitely is much appreciated. It really is. I'm still thinking. I made 2 points as we've all been talking today. One, Adele, I can't imagine you turning up shy anywhere, and I'm just telling you that now.
I kind of thought the same
Not
thing.
saying anymore.
The idea of you rocking up to HSMI going, like a delicate flower, and not kicking the door open and going, she's here, doesn't sit right with me. And secondly, I also like the idea of somebody contacting you on LinkedIn and going, let me tell you about customer satisfaction.
I got
honey.
emails literally to the Costa Blanca Hotel, to the Aria Hotel Budapest that said, we can help improve your ranking on TripAdvisor. I'm number 1 for 5 years now.
Read the room, buddy. Just a little bit of digging, just a surface level, okay?
I mean,
A little bit of
it's
research might be helpful on that
got,
one.
like the message I got yesterday to see if, we want to talk to you about whether our parking management service is right for your company.
I didn't know you had a parking problem, Lily.
Right? So I wanted to jump in and mention too, don't discount indirect opportunities to get in front of your network. I recently used that so much to kind of get noticed in different places, but I didn't realize that any post you do, it goes to your connection. So if you have folks that you're trying to win over or build that relationship with, you can use posts about yourself, like Ed was saying, and it will appeal to them in some shape or way. So you're in front of them, they won't forget you. You're saying things that'll trigger them. So take advantage of that indirect approach too. It does a lot more than you realize.
Absolutely.
If anything that this show has shown me is the friends you make, the connections you make, as Ed says, the 100% good karma. Like, what can I do to help? All boats rise when the tide rises. How can we help each other? No, there's nothing in it for me other than the satisfaction I could help. And that comes around in buckets. I mean, it is a non-ending source of opportunity that to this day, I can't tell you how much Ed has pointed in my direction, or Ben has shared with me stuff that I didn't think about, or Dean hasn't shared with me, or Lily, or Stephanie, or Adele, everybody. And plus, Tim, Peter, and Stuart, and everybody. This all created this because we all decided we wanted to, sit around and talk at each other for a little while. That never would have happened. And it's amazing because of all the audiences we get and everything else. It's like, there's so much fun stuff that goes on from this and learning stuff. It's like, it's not like we're all walking around going, oh, I know everything. You can't tell me anything I don't know. It's like we're all walking into it going, what can you show me next? What can I learn next from you? Because none of us know all of this stuff and we enjoy all this. So that premise, and we lost Amy when we did that, is about sales. It's about that relationship that it's not, as Ed pointed out and then Amy confirmed over and over, is what can I learn about you to know how I can help you? What can I do to help you? Not how much can I sell you? Not how much can I push on you? How can I help you? And I think out of what you've been talking, Amy, it's really about listening, understanding, and knowing the techniques of the person to get that from the other person. I mean, you talk about that scaling of people, which I thought was very interesting, that you're right. There's some people that can walk, as I used to joke about it, drop me butt naked in the middle of New York. At the end of the night, I'm driving around a limo smoking a cigar. There's people that can do that. And
I've seen that, by the way. Highly recommend
social. It was before social. But that's something that's not getting on your head, Ben. I know it. Sorry.
And at the end of your life, you're going to be more happy because you'll feel that you did something productive. The feeling that you'll have knowing that you helped people grow their careers and accomplish good things and make other connections, you're going to feel that you had a rich, fulfilling life with, even not talking about your bank account. Right. It's what we really are here for.
And do you feel like there's a good combination between people that are globulous like me, like I'm all over the place, squirrel, I'm off on it, and then there's very linear people, because I work with very linear people really well. Because after a while, they're like, Lauren, that's great, but we're over here right now. Keep going this. I work well with people that are not me. By the same token, I think I contribute to them where sometimes I pull them off the path a little bit going, hey, it isn't just the road. There's some paths over here. So I think it's a great relationship. Do you feel like sales teams, combinations like that are positive things? Or do you feel like everyone should be similar? Or, what are some perspectives you have with all the teams that you've worked with?
In terms of just like the skill sets or just
or the personalities. You talked about people that, can shoot from the hip, and then there's other people that give me a roadmap and they crush it. You give them the details of what they need, and you give them the end goal, and you give them the process and the methodology, and with proper structure, they're unstoppable. I mean, no wall stops them. They get to where they need to go because they know where they want to get. Where, it's a different personality mix. Do you feel like those kind of mixes work well together? Or do you feel like the team should be asimilar, like they're all one way or another? I mean, have you seen good mixes, I guess?
No, I think so. I generally, I do not like to pigeonhole people because I work from a growth mindset versus a fixed. And so I really truly think, I mean, I've worked with all kinds of sellers and different mentalities around it. What I love to do is help them break down the barriers that they're personally faced with, that are the roadblocks of them seeing things as limitless and seeing things that, they're able to create abundance for themselves and for their companies. So no, I do not think that there has to be one type of seller or one type of team or one type inside of one team. I think variety is really important. But the key is knowing the strengths and the skill sets of the team, and then where are the gaps that are, looking at it as a whole, right? So we look at it as, I'm trying to boil the ocean here, so forgive me, but we review a sales team by looking at, we assess, right? So things like strengths finders and Colby assessments really gets you to know and understand somebody's blueprint, their modus operandi, their makeup. And then you look at that from a holistic standpoint as the team, and how do they work together, and how then can they, be more cohesive as a team. And then we train sellers to actually, I was just having this conversation this week. I had somebody who shared an example of, they were having a really challenging conversation coming up with a client. And we talked about, what is the need of that client, right? Where are they coming from? And so if you've got a salesperson that's open-minded about learning things around, not just like, I need to slam the phones, I need to slam the emails, I got to go for the sale, but they're there to actually contribute and add value to every interaction and conversation, and open-minded to this particular example, as we were talking about, well, this person actually, what they're showing you is that they need certainty. The whole situation right now is lacking certainty. Stephanie's smiling because she knows the example I'm talking about. The whole thing around this person is they're lacking certainty at some level. So what language can you use to authentically show them that you're here to provide confidence, peace of mind, certainty in the plan? And by changing the framework of how she approached that conversation, the outcome was, a win-win for everybody. And so I think those are the types of things that you have to look at inside of your team and really be mindful of. When we're in a rat race, like we have been the last couple of years, it's been difficult to do that, I think, in any organization, because we're just trying to keep up. And we've been given an opportunity to just take a step back and slow down and regroup and reevaluate where we are as a sales organization and a marketing organization.
And Lauren, just to give an angle on your question, when I build sales teams, I prefer to have differing personalities. And that's partly because no one personality is universally accepted. Right. You need a team that can speak to and mirror the personalities of your customers. And, I had to step away real quick to do something, but I was thinking about our previous conversation about the community that we all have. Building a community with other salespeople that talk to the same types of clients as you is one of the most important things you can do. One, it'll give you tremendous support when you need the emotional support, but two, you can help each other. I think back to when I was young and first starting in the industry, obviously much younger than Lauren.
because you know I had a birthday. Now all of a sudden I'm old. Okay.
I think about my peers at that time and how close we got, and we've all grown together. So now all of a sudden, the people I like to hang out with after trade shows were done and things like that, who were other salespeople, they're now VPs, CEOs of pretty large parts of our industry because we all move up. So even as a starting salesperson, you should be looking at, okay, you're selling to this audience. Who else is selling to this audience that you can mingle with, that you can build friendships with, and that you can help because they'll also help you. They may have a great relationship with someone that you're just trying to get a conversation with. Well, they're probably going to be able to get you that conversation much easier than anything else you do because they have a relationship. And so, kind of putting that into a bit of a more succinct, not just, hey, look at all these random people on this show that we all happen to be very friendly and, like each other. That's actually a skill, and it's something important for a salesperson to think about is, you should have relationships with other salespeople that are in your industry, because that, first of all, you'll make some great friends.
Everybody should join. If you're in hospitality, sales, marketing, and revenue, you should join HSMAI. It has given me so much in my career. And you know what? And I have gone to luncheons and stood up at the end of the lunch meeting with business to take back from my fellow hoteliers. Oh, I can't take this group. Can you take him?
It's been fun. There was on one of the newscasts last couple of days ago, or within the past couple of days, they were interviewing all of the African American governors, mayors of cities, and they were talking about their collaboration as friends. Where they were talking about the fact that they really appreciated the peer conversation where you're not trying to take my job, you're not trying to attack me, you're not trying to work around me, you're not, there's a bleed over of all of us in some capacity as to the types of businesses that we do, but we do not see each other as a competitor because we do things differently. We all do what we do differently comparatively to each other. But collaboratively, we are a much greater resource because I learn tremendous amounts, not just from the show, but just from weekly dialogue with everybody as to, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about that, or did you see this? That peer conversation that Ed, you pointed to, Adele, you pointed to, salespeople should take advantage of that opportunity too, even if it is within your market. And yes, you may be competitors, but first and foremost, you got to get them to your market. I mean, people sometimes, as you said, Amy, with the fighting that's been going on up to the point that we get to pause right now is, oh, I got to steal it from my competitor across the street. Well, now we're competing with other places. We always have competed with other places, but now more so than ever, we're competing with other destinations based on hotspots and people's drivability and all the other things that are now a part of the process of decision making. And creating that relationship stuff that we keep referring to is such a critical component to one, being better informed, being capable, and thinking differently than how you think yourself in a little box. I do have a loaded question.
Never.
Do you think in current environment that the sales team should be unshackled? Sales has always, very rarely have I ever seen the sales department operate at whatever will it wants, book whatever it wants, do whatever it wants. Usually it was more conference center centric hotels that had that dominant, the sales team leads the herd. Other than that, sales teams tended to have to be like, let me get in, coach. And they're like, no, we're going to let that go transient. Whatever. Do you feel, given the current circumstances, that sales teams, because of the demand being so great, should be unfettered and allowed to pursue whatever they can possibly find and then work around that?
100% yes for me.
Can I
I
answer
only
that?
need to listen.
Let the
But
big
if
stuff.
I see an opportunity, if I'm in a conversation with someone and I say, oh, that's great about this meeting. How about your other departments? Do they have any groups coming in? How about your other departments? Is anybody traveling individually? Why should I be tethered?
Ben, can
I
you
would
just say
like-
it in your great accent, release the Kraken just for me so I have it on audio?
No, from
trying
my
to get
perspective-
that Scottish release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken.
Time. Was that Scottish?
Yes, I did. I did just throw shade at
You are
you.
from Scotland, right?
Did you forget this game? Did you just think because I was being quiet, I wasn't going to somehow misapply what your accent is?
Okay, all right. Okay, first, okay. No. This is going to be a sensible meeting, guys. This is a sensible group of sensible adults discussing sensible things. It would be more like at least the Kraken. It's more like the Rogan R's.
I'm soundbiting that. I'm soundbiting that.
I'll tell you what, Lauren, for you, lad, what I'll do is I'll record it for you and I'll send it up to yourself today.
Thank you so much.
God bless you, Lauren Gray. God bless you.
Sorry, I interrupted.
What was before that?
Okay, I
Lily
have
was
to go
gonna
back
say
and
something
answer
smart.
that for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, something smart. Thank you. So I think that unfettered completely is probably going to lead to a lot of issues partly because a lot of hotels have decided to furlough their revenue manager thinking that we don't need to set strategy for next year right now, which I also think is kind of a mistake. So you have to have some kind of guidelines because there's a lot of hotels that book convention business, 5 or 6 years out, and we can't have them. This happened in 2009 where people started negotiating for 2012 and 2013 at the 2009 mindset of we need whatever we can get, and it created some really unprofitable decisions. So I think, as always, sales and revenue management need to have a partnership together. And if your revenue manager doesn't want to loosen your restrictions, that might be a problem for sure, because there is definitely more opportunity. Just like people are saying, oh, well, I still don't want to take Expedia or Booking.com business. That's probably a mistake right now. But you can put smart parameters around that, and they may be looser parameters for sure, but there still have to be parameters because most of your salespeople are not trained in how to calculate the profitability of that, and they may actually be selling things at a cost to the hotel. There is such a thing as being able to revenue yourself out of business. So I would say not completely unfettered, but certainly working together to find the right boundaries.
I also think it depends on how clear the goals of your organization are. Because in what Lily's trying to say is if there are rails that exist, like, hey, by the way, we exist to accomplish these goals, then yes, you with that foundation, you can say, go get creative and find stuff. But I also agree with Lily. You can't just send any member of any team of any personality on a crazy, do whatever you want. Because do whatever you want tends to not, really solve problems. It tends to create them.
And I hear where Adele's coming from too, because she's a smart, savvy, strategic salesperson. And whether or not people are at the beginning of that journey or the end of the journey, not every hotel is typically going to have a mix of salespeople, right? Some of who are more savvy and some of whom are not. So from her mindset, I have no doubt that Adele would go out and book a fantastic piece of business, but XYZ salesperson may not. So it's still important to have everybody have a playbook to work by.
I was just talking about sourcing business, finding business, asking for business. At the end of the day, saying what rate we need in order to accommodate that is another story. That I think that should always be done in the morning huddle, or whenever it is you guys do it. I wouldn't let people just decide their own thing.
I would still rather unleash my sales team than unleash the OTAs, though. At least the sales teams are bringing it in directly for me, as opposed to outsourcing the OTAs. And right now that the people are thinking, I got to put heads in beds, and they're selling their souls to the OTAs. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. But if I had a choice,
I think it's going to happen less right now because the OTAs are less powerful in this downturn than they were in all the previous ones. In all the previous ones, OTAs doubled down on spend and really they captured market. They were limping into this to begin with. All of them were in really bad shape, and then this hurt quite a bit. So and actually it's one of the positive things to the crazy disaster we're in is the OTAs probably aren't going to be able to take the ground, even if you want to let them take it. I don't know.
So,
like
Dean,
that.
you phrased this as an either or. Frankly, I will be
Fair point.
very happy when hotels get to the point where they have to fight over whether they are going to sell that room to an OTA or a group, because I think
agree with that.
that's not where most hotels are right now. So I think my point is, you never restrict. This is like the number one rule of revenue management. You do not restrict unless you're guaranteed to sell out. You keep everything available. You keep everything on the shelf. You can optimize your channels in a certain way where you're targeting the most profitable channels and allowing those to flow into your hotel or get the best chance of success in your hotel. But unless you know for sure that you're going to sell out, you should be taking every profitable dollar that people want to spend at your hotel.
Dean, are you hogging the only one internet phone line out of Nebraska? Is that what's happening here? Is that why, Amy?
I think you guys are scaring off my friend Amy, and I need you all to cut it out.
Dean is taking all the bandwidth of the connection of the state.
I have the power.
Because everything in Nebraska is corn powered, right?
It's he who walks behind the rows, children of the corn.
Hey, I do have another loaded question, and until Amy can pop back in with us to throw in her side of it as well, is would you let sales teams influence the rate strategies associated with consortia, FIT, wholesale, because it influences their rate strategy on offerability? Would you feel that they should have a voice in that dialogue?
Define influence.
I don't know. I'm leaving that to you. I just want to see you grit your teeth.
You just waited to today to throw out all the revenue management questions, didn't you?
Yeah, heck yeah.
Lauren's just attempting to stir the pot, is what he's
no,
really
I love it.
trying to do. He's like, hey, you know what?
Here.
I have an idea. Let's have the front desk staff set rate.
That's the sales team.
We've been overall far too civil this week, so people are kind of waiting for this. So Lauren's just trying to deliver on our brand promise for the show. But no, I think that there should always be a dialogue, and that's why I asked why you said influence, because I think people could take it many ways, but there should absolutely be a dialogue, because in theory, that salesperson knows their customer better than anybody else, and they should be able to give good feedback on that. That being said, I've also seen salespeople either go too high or too low, but sometimes too high. So when you talk about group rate influencing, FIT rates or things like that, a common refrain between sales and revenue management is stop lowering bar because you're going below my protected group rate. But I've also seen salespeople protect group rate at $10 below bar for 10 rooms in a 250-room hotel. And I tell them you need to go back and drop the group rate, because I can't protect or let sit empty 240 rooms because of your 10-room group. So as always, it comes back to the topic of convergence. Sales and revenue management need to be in dialogue constantly and need to have full understanding of each other's strategies and the ability to understand the relationship quotient, the money quotient, the profitability quotient.
Real quick, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt our normally scheduled program for just a quick second because we're going to lose Kat here in just a couple of minutes. But I wanted to make sure we had the chance, and Amy, I apologize, Kat has changed positions and roles, and I wanted to make sure she jumped on the show today to kind of tell us her transition real quick. Well, not real quick, but just tell us her transition, because we might not be having Kat join us for a while because she is going to be a very busy woman doing other things. But Kat, please tell us where we know you were at with Alhoa, but where you've gone and what you're doing next so that everybody knows.
No, absolutely. I'll let you know that Amy and Adele got the insider scoop because I had to jump off the webinars that thank God Adele picked up so well. So I wasn't tricky. Oh, and I got you with Anthony Malchiori. So that was my last thing I had to make sure to do with this show so I can sleep at night. But I have transitioned to a company called Enricher. And it's such a cool company. I mean, I want to let me just pull up something here I had for myself. But this company, they specifically fund women-led businesses that are established and they're looking for scalability. And they also allow investors to come in where you get up to 5% return on your investment into these women-led businesses. We have our own underwriting process to qualify these individuals too. So you're more likely to be investing in a lower risk company. Because of all the steps that we have. So that is like a very high-end overview. There's so much heart that's driven in this company, and even the logo itself has this adorable little heart in it. I am their director of operations. Actually, I wanted to kind of tell this story specifically for all those that are using LinkedIn or all those that might be in between or looking for a little bit of hope. But with this company in this position, I actually interviewed and was interviewing for something different and ended up appealing to the CEO so much that I was approached and created a job for myself essentially through that interaction, just that. But I used a tremendous amount of LinkedIn and that indirect marketing to stay top of mind, to show my skill set. And it ended up working completely in my favor without even putting as much direct attention to try and do that. So I see the benefit that it can be used for business. Now, my role, I'm their director of operations, and as mentioned, it's like completely brand new and created essentially for me to get in and oversee. So it's week 1 right now, so just getting my feet wet and taking in everything. I have transitioned from hospitality now to the finance and investment side of business, so that is one of the reasons why this might very well be my last show on the hospitality side of things. I guess when you guys are looking for what are new ways for hoteliers to invest and diversify their portfolios, let me know. Or for the many women-led businesses that are part of this organization that either need next steps or want to get involved with another company that's doing a lot of what you support, I'm your lady. So that's kind of a very high-level overview of what's going on. You can tell I'm super excited. I think it's right in line with so much of my life's personal goals. So new journey, and I'm giving it 1,000,000%, and just trying to make an impact. And oddly enough, so that LinkedIn strategy too that I had, I ended up doing this really nice post on the first day I was hired. And it's by far my largest. I have over 7,000 views, which is huge for me. And it ended up being one of the highest posts that the company has ever had. So me walking in the door, I already
nice.
Set the bar high,
Yeah. I think it's beyond the fact that you just use the platform. I think you have a lot of very dear people that care about you, and you've made an impression on the industry for everything you've done when you were with Alhoa. You've certainly made an impression on everybody that has had the privilege of working with you when your role previous to this. And I have no doubt that you are on a path that's going to make you continue to make you an exceptional person for everything you dedicated to. I couldn't pitch a bigger fit. When you privileged me by telling me what was going on early on, I was ecstatic. I just see that so much a part of your personality. And as we all say, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And I don't think this has worked for you at all. I think this is an aspirational goal that you have always been on the path of. You just had to take different roads to get there. And now you're on the more direct path to it. So I hope this is not your last show. You are always going to be a welcome participant in this. Please, you're amongst friends at every time. And it doesn't have to be just because we're talking about hospitality. Your insights, who you deal with, the way you see the world is always a welcome contributing to conversation for us. So please, I never feel like just because you're not talking about hospitality marketing today does not mean you can never ever join us. It would be always welcome to have you on here. Ben, go ahead. Sorry.
Just to be crystal clear, Lauren, how often do we actually talk about hospitality marketing?
Yeah,
maybe there's a different show you're talking about there.
Well, everybody's very hospitable.
It's not because Stuart's not here.
All of Freud's little personalities in one screen.
It has been so great. And thank you for the folks that reached out and sent such wonderful messages to me. And yeah, I would love to come back and talk with you all. This is like like therapy almost. You get to let things off your mind and let folks know, hey, what happened to the golden rule? Can we just remind you to be nice? Can we remind you to be a good person? But it's these folks here, it's all of you that continue pushing that message, and it's so important. So I'm honored to have been on this show for as long as I have, and to have met you all. Similar to you, Adele, Lauren came into my life from HSMAI, and we shared some cheese curds, and then that was it.
Rule.
And Wisconsin cheese curds, so you can't even get any
In Wisconsin. We went for the core.
So I thank you so much, and I guess I'll say, if you want to find me, if you want to talk about Enricher, check us out. You want to talk about non-hospitality, you can find me at kat@ienrichher.com.
Awesome.
Congratulations, Kat.
Greatest
Thank you so much.
success. Not that we're not always going to keep in touch with you anyway, so you can't get rid of us.
It's okay. I'm happy about it.
Okay. So all the best, and always, please, if you ever get bored on a Friday morning, you know where to come.
Well, thank you, and thanks everybody listening in. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye now.
All right, so I have a question for Amy that I've been holding since 20 minutes into this show, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to that.
That's not healthy. You shouldn't hold in questions.
No, it affects everything.
So, Amy, earlier when we were talking about cadence, you mentioned that you say to a lot of people going through your coaching program, which I love, by the way, that you'll experience the most resistance when you come up on topics like that. So why do you think that is? What is it with the current salespeople that causes them to be resistant to something, especially when you can sit back and prove to them the benefits of that? What is it that causes that resistance, and what does that look like?
I think initially it's just overwhelming because they haven't been utilizing, in some cases, utilizing their CRM tool to its full capability. And so really understanding, and they feel like, oh my gosh, I literally have to send, and typically it's when they're already working with our team for lead generation. So they're getting quite a bit of marketing and sales qualified leads into their funnel. And so then it's like, well, what do I do with these? They're just not used to having them be in the funnel for so long, right? Because what I said was we're really used to that RFP inbound inquiry process. So I think it's initially this overwhelm of, oh my gosh, how do I manage that? And just they have to be walked through the process a little bit deeper to use the tools that are there to enable this process to help. And in some cases, we're helping them find the right tool too, because maybe they don't have anything at all. Like some sales teams don't even have a CRM, which is crazy. They have no tools. So walking them through that. And then also the other piece is the resistance, because somebody else brought it up. Like, we don't want to be annoying. We don't want to be that pushy salesperson, right? Like, this is going to make me seem overbearing to the client.
But Amy, to tie in like what you and Ed have both said, I mean, if the cadence is extremely picked up and fast, like, do you coach them through like, versus just like checking in? Are they depositing into that relationship and giving something to them? Like, do you think, like for me, when I'm doing business development, I try to have, try to do a deposit. Like, I wrote a blog and I try to share it and try to give, so that, that type thing. Do you help give them those resources so that they have something to share other than like, hey, when are you going to sign the contract? Do you have those different discussion points other than just if the cadence is increased?
Right. So that we look at it as there's, when we talk about follow-up and nurture in the sales process, it's a science and an art. The science is the frequency, the cadence, and, the touch points. And then the art is being compelling and having relevant content and information that you're going to share through whatever tactic you're using, right? Like multi-channel. And so when we're talking about frequency, that specific frequency that I shared with you guys is the email tactic, right? And that has to be coupled with phone conversation, social media, in-person networking when that can be had, you know, all of those things. But yes, we are, it's the, so we'll usually partner. I mean, we're not an end all be all everything. You know, the marketing department might have some assets that are available to utilize maybe, and then determining what are the gaps, like what's not built, what's not available, what are some of the messages that we see from our insights in talking to these customers that they're asking about, right? Because sometimes we're not, like, for a while there, we saw so much being thrown out about cleanliness standards, and we still do, but at the beginning, it was like every brand was putting out cleanliness standards. Every hotel was talking about that. Our customers that we were talking about were asking about flexibility, and they were talking more about, like, you know, how easy are you going to make it for me? Yes, I want to be safe. Yes, I'm going to, if I'm traveling, I'm going to have to, you know, just make sure that that's a standard that you're meeting. I want to be able to trust you. But there are other pieces were being ignored. And so building that into the content and being really relevant to them.
And not all content needs to be huge and built out. One thing I recommend to anyone in sales is read lots of stuff across a lot of different interests. I follow multiple kind of blog feeds of different kind of funnels of interest. So that way you have something you can engage with someone with their interest. You can talk about a wide array of things, and then use that cleverly. You know, lightly pay attention to something they mentioned so that later on you can show your thoughtfulness by going, oh, by the way, I just saw this article. I think you'd find it really interesting. Have you seen it? You can have touches like that give you fill when you don't have the ability to kind of bridge whatever their timeline is with what has been made available to you for the purposes of the sales process. So, you know, I highly recommend to everyone, you should open a broad array of interests, and really get to a point where you can conversationally, you know, engage in that specific type of interest. People really like that type of stuff. And you'll learn a lot from them if they engage with you, because they'll educate you on what they're passionate about. And then you have that connection, right? And so, those types of touches are really good when you know you're in a sales cycle that is exceeding the content repository that you have for intelligent touches.
That's such a classic truth. It sounds like something from Dale Carnegie, you know, or just even. I think
it was. I think I learned it on an Ellis Connolly blog.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ellis is in the building. Dun, 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 dun. Hi, Ellis. Uh-oh.
Hello, Ellis.
Someone in the building.
You scared him off with a jingle, Lauren.
I tried to do my best Elvis music intro thing, and it backfired.
Ellis is also in Nebraska, so now we've definitely exceeded.
We've totally turned that one little phone line out. Corn Belt.
Midwest taking over.
Hey, they just laid fiber optic in my neighborhood. I now have 1 gigabyte bandwidth.
Yeah. Dean, they got to bury it and connect it. Just laying it on the side of the road ain't doing it.
Oh, come on.
It's under the corn husks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's protected.
We're missing audio on you. I'm sorry. It looks like you have it, but it's not on. Hold on. No, that's just mute. It should be on. Sorry, Ellis, if you're not coming through. I think it might be.
Actually, we're getting the best of Ellis. We can see him, but not hear him.
Yeah, well, you know, it's contributing to the visualization.
That's right.
Yeah,
we are much hipper. We are much hipper now because of just the view of Ellis.
We have joined the cool club society.
So, yes, Amy, I apologize that I missed earlier in the show. You know, I know you have a hotel sales background. What really got you into sales?
Well, Interesting enough, in college, I did event planning and meeting planning and had internships there. My first hotel job was to be a EMM, which was basically planning out and then servicing, or I had to sell and service. And thinking at the time that service was, my wheelhouse coming from event planning. And quickly found out that I really loved the sales side and I really loved the conversations and activating things. I wasn't that detail oriented. And now, funny thing is, I've done all these assessments as an entrepreneur and realized that my Colby score is a 6383. It all comes to it's very, aha, of course, that's why I'm that way. And so they actually created a sales position for me in my first hotel that I ever worked in. And it was in Rochester, Minnesota. If any of you are familiar with Rochester, it was, huge medical, the Mayo Clinic. I had to do all the business that was not Mayo Clinic related. I was the Smurf sales manager. So, everything I had to sell, I first had to sell the community of Rochester, sports groups, all of that, like why should you come to Rochester, and then sell my hotels. And it was a lot of fun for me, but it was there that I really learned to hunt and to nurture and to go out and find business, because everything I got had to be done from that aspect. And then when we moved to San Francisco, actually, and that was right after 9/11 and the dot-com bust. And that was, at a time when most sellers had been really used to great times back then. And when I came into the market, I didn't know any different. Everyone was struggling and talking about, what used to be, it was so great. And they didn't know how to proactively find new business opportunities. And I came in naive. I was in my early 20s, had, no idea how great it had been, and just went to work and became, one of the top sellers in my company, and just grew from there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And kudos to whoever your manager was at that first hotel to realize that it was smart for them to give you bandwidth to be creative and to develop. That's so important for salespeople, to have really good management that can, set you up for success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mentorship is so important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I had some fantastic mentors. Funny story, when I moved from Rochester, Minnesota to San Francisco, it was for my husband's company. And the GM at the time of the hotel looked at me and said, this was for a luxury hotel, brand new property in downtown San Francisco. And he was like, are you actually going to be able to relate to our customers? Because I'm like this like from small town Nebraska, and I had my University of Nebraska like binder in my interview. I mean, I must have looked like a total whatever, but he said that, and I walked away. I must have given a good answer because I got the offer. But I almost resigned on my first day because of that. I stepped into the director of sales office, and I had another job offer with a hotel that was on the East Bay, that was with the company that I worked for in Rochester. They had offered me basically a transfer. And I almost took that job and just like said, you know what, I took this job with the other hotel, but on my first day, I had so much in my head about that one question before I even started. And my DOS at the time, and who's become a very dear friend, and she was a mentor of mine, said, you know what, there's something about you. I don't know you very well, but I have a feeling you want to prove him wrong. And I said, you're absolutely right. I do. I guess I'm staying. And I did. And then a couple years later, the company that stole me away, he called up that VP and said, "Congratulations, you just stole my superstar," and was like super bummed. And so I tell that story a lot to salespeople today, because, you know, don't lower your self-worth because of, you know, what you're going through in the moment and where you've been. And there's always opportunity to grow and learn. And I saw a question about, somebody asked a question of me earlier in the chat about, this relates to it. They asked about, can an activator be trained, or is that something that you have? We use a lot of assessments, and we look at blueprints of people and, you know, see where they fit. You want right people in the right seat. But I also come from a background of, you know, that story has been a part of me for a very long time. And also being an entrepreneur, I started my company when I was 26 years old. Like, unheard of, right? Like, what kind of experience did I actually have?
That was just like last week, right?
I wish. But so there's all this in your head, right? About self-worth and everything. Anybody has the opportunity to change and grow and evolve. That's why we're all here. So no, I don't want to ever pigeonhole somebody into, oh, you can never be a great seller because your activator is low. But we have to be honest with ourselves and know what feels good to us. Like, there's certain people that is such an uncomfortable situation. And I've tried in my early days, I tried to put a seller in a sales, I tried to put somebody in a sales role who clearly did not have the blueprint, and it felt so uncomfortable for this poor person. They were like sweating bullets going into any conversation. You just have to be honest with yourself. And I see hotels that in the past have done this. I think this is, you know, almost like the Great Reset, maybe putting people in that seat that were meant for a different seat within the organization. They were a great culture fit. They were the right person, but just in the wrong seat.
Mm-hmm. That was shared with us by the new and improved Stuart Butler, the smarter, better Stuart Butler than the old Stuart Butler that we used to have.
I know, Amy, you're a big proponent of like right person, right seat. That's from the book we talked about. If anybody's interested, it's what is the book called? I'm drawing a blank.
Well, there's
Traction.
Rocket Fuel and Traction. Gino Wickman, and he's got other partners in those books, but we follow the entrepreneurial operating system inside of GetGo, and it's centered and framed around that whole idea.
I have another slightly loaded question. You referred to yourself when you first started from the Smurf market. And I've often picked on that term, as unless somebody small and blue shows up at your front desk, there's really no such thing. Because we categorize unfairly, and this is our way as humans that we stereotype or categorize to be able to process large amounts of data down to a singular way of reacting to it, that we categorize our business unfairly. We don't individualize our marketing or communication strategy, which inherently leads myself that's a bit of a contrast to what you've been talking about a lot of, which is literally just that, creating the creation, the communication, the trust, the how can I help use, the interactivity, the cadence, as you refer to it, the means of points and touch and contact. That is actually the opposite of the categorizations that we have put into our industry as in, for instance, Smurf, where we try to put them into silos of reference and then try to treat it based on the silo that it's in. How do you resolve that when you're training sales teams that it's okay to quantify them, but it's not good to classify them?
I guess I want a little bit more clarity on the question. Are you talking about like,
I'm good with those kind of long just questions. By the end of it, you're going,
that's pretty typical of Lauren.
Yeah, that's a Lauren question. Sorry.
Are you talking about categorizing salespeople? Or
Well, no. How do you react to it? You're classifying. You're saying, hey, this is you're in charge of Smurf. Okay. Once they learn what that acronym is, great. Now, when everybody calls, they throw them into a bin. Is it an S, an M? and you throw them into a bin, and then you react to them like, okay, this is a wedding. I got to go hold their hand. I got to show them taffeta. I got to do this. Compared to, I'm a meeting planner. I need to know the facts. I need to know what the contract looks like, and I need to sign if I like it. You treat them differently based on the category that they come in the door with. What you're talking about with your training of your sales team is stop. What's their name? Where do they come from? What are their needs? What can you give them to make them, solve their issues and so forth, which is opposite of the categorization we create as an industry. So how do you resolve that conflict? Mm-hmm. You're telling them one thing, but you're acting another way.
Oh, okay. So we're instead of stereotyping like every wedding customer, every bride is a, bridezilla and needs their hand held and, all that. Is that what you mean? So
yeah. How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you teach salespeople to know the individuality?
Well, I think I shouldn't say inherently, but salespeople have to be relators and understand. It's all about, I'm fact finding. Whether I'm reaching out proactively or I'm getting an inbound inquiry, I need to dig deeper and understand the client. What is their pain points? Who are they? What do they need? How can I add value? Right? So yeah, we categorize and we say there's military market, and we kind of know the basics of what. This is interesting because we've been developing this inside of our coaching program specifically right now. We're building out each market segment and the key areas that you need to know that nobody tells you as you're jumping into a new market segment, right? Like even sellers that have been in it for 20 years, if they've been focused on corporate negotiated, they need to know the nuances and the insights that are general around some of these other market segments as they're becoming more diverse. And so, but where you start is you have to ask these open-ended questions, right? Really get to understand the client and then build that into the framework of your content, right? The being relevant and compelling. So you're not really over being too specific. I hope I'm answering your question.
No, you are. You're bringing it to the direction I was hoping you would go to. Is like, look, there is this categorization, but doesn't mean that you have to stereotypically have the same responses. I do want to make the chance because I want to make sure because Steph is doing a great presentation coming up with Holly, with the DC chapter for HSMAI, and I want to make sure that people understand what that link is she just shared. So Steph, give it a roll real quick as to what you're doing.
Yeah, really quick. I guess it's normally a pretty decent sized event in DC, but now that they're virtual, it's next Thursday. There's going to be a DC State of the Union provided from Destination DC, along with Calibri Labs, and then we're going to have breakout sections. I'm doing the marketing one, Holly's doing sales, and Tim, I'm going to mess up his last name, Leersma, is doing the revenue management breakout. So depending on what track is interesting you, it's $25 for non-members and $20 for members. So check it out. I know that and if you cannot, I was going to say there is an application if you are unemployed and you still are interested in attending. They do have an application process and they still have slots available to help people that don't have corporate dollars to pay for it right now.
Awesome. And Steph, before you run, I know we missed Ed's opportunity analysis as well, but real quickly, Cogwheel Marketing, where to find you and so forth before you jump.
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, Stephanie Sparks Smith, and online at cogwheelmarketing.com. So
awesome. Thanks, Steph. Thanks for being steward today. You really made the name rise a little bit up above its normal baseline.
Good to see you, Stephanie.
Thanks, guys.
We actually are getting kind of. I know, Amy. We asked you, "Hey, you got 30 minutes." 2 hours later,
it's a good discussion right there.
Fun. I like that.
Right.
Great.
Is there anything that you felt that we missed or that we didn't ask about that you really want to make sure people understand? Obviously, I want to ask you all the information about where people can find GitGo and you and all that other stuff. But is there anything else that you want to make sure that we didn't miss in the conversation today?
I mean, I came into this conversation like I always do, just an open book. And I always feel that when we talk about subjects, I hope that somebody gained something from the conversation, if I could even just help one person. So I I don't think that there's anything specific that we missed. I can be found in a lot of different places. You want me to just share that?
Please do. Yes, everything that where people can find you and where all that good stuff.
Yeah. You can find me at GitGoGroup.com, and that's GitGo group.com, or on LinkedIn, Amy Infante.
Thank you very, very much for that. And thank you for taking the time with us today. And now you're part of the fact that you will always be dragged into these conversations. And if you would like to be reminded on a regular basis, I will be more than happy to send you a perennial link that if you would like to join like this, that you're always welcome to join us, because gosh knows, when you have people like Ben on here, we need to balance the scale to the other side. You know what I mean? What? Hey, you haven't been here for a couple of weeks, all right?
It's been 1 week. Like, it's 6:30 in the evening here on a Friday, man.
It seems like forever when you're not here. I mean,
it does, because you have to put up with Tris. So
yeah.
Well,
okay,
it's his wife's birthday today. He couldn't make it, but he apologizes.
Amy, please say hi to him for us. I mean, you guys are your evil plan to take over the world, I think, is working. I think
I'll call you afterwards.
Okay, please do that. And Ben, since I'm dogging on you, I might as well give you the courtesy of defending yourself as to what you're doing out of New Guinea.
First of all, Amy, thank you very much for the rocket fuel recommendation. I've bought that. I'm going to get in trouble with my wife because she said I buy too much from Amazon. I'm this close to giving our Amazon delivery driver a key to our house. But thank you. I'm going to have a read through that. Yeah, you can find us at 3and6.agency, digital marketing without dishonesty for hotels. We are without smoke and mirrors, letting you peek behind our curtain. No, Lauren, keep it clean. And issues like attribution, marketing, and strategy like that for clients all around the world. And we're growing quite quickly.
Yes, you are. And congratulations to that, by all means. Mr. Dean Schmit, since I butchered your two businesses by name, Dean, I think it's only fair that you rebalance the scale of my inefficiencies.
Dean Schmit from where?
Yes, Dean.
From Nebraska.
It's been a Cornhuskers edition. Thank you so much. Dean, where can they find you and all the cool things that you're doing?
Sure. So a couple of things we're doing right now. We've got two websites, actually, you can look at, basecampmeta.com and metasearchmarketing.com. We just recently started releasing a series of videos that we did in conjunction with Epic Revenue Consultants, talking about what is metasearch. It's a very high-level material. And once you've gone through that, you'll be able to graduate to our next level series, our 201 series, if you will, getting a little bit deeper into connectivity, content, deep dive into Google, all those different channels. And then on the metasearch marketing side of it, actually working on a program where we looked at all these little hotels out there, say a bed and breakfast in Lincoln, Nebraska, and said, how do I get them connected into Meta? Because it's a little bit more challenging than if you're a chain of Marriott hotels. And happy to say we found some solutions to do exactly that. Stay tuned for more information on that coming very soon.
Miss Adele, please, since I also butchered your company's name before.
Oh, no worries, no worries. My company's name is Aspire Reputation Marketing. I say that because reputation marketing is so much more than reputation management. People think it's just about, oh, how do I, just respond to this complaint to get rid of it from my to-do list. But what I love to do is I love to help hoteliers free and liberate their teams from dealing with soul-crushing negative reviews. The trick is to stop having the negative reviews, and there truly is a system for that. And to get showered by positive 5-star reviews that's going to accelerate your recovery and your revenue. And I just want to start a conversation with you. So link in with me. On LinkedIn, it's /Hotel Adele for some reason. And you can email me at adele@aspirereputation.com or visit my website at aspirereputationmarketing.com.
Outstanding. Thank you. Ms. Mockerman, you're not really doing much these days, pretty much vacations, pina coladas, margaritas, wake up late. But, other than that, is there anything else going on?
Well, if anybody wants me to test test out travel and see how it's going. I'm your gal for sure.
No
Just
kidding.
got back from some myself. And it was great, by the way. Great to travel right now. But I can be found at tcrmservices.com, where we do excellence in all things day-to-day revenue management, and then also Think Up Enterprises, where we focus on sales, revenue, and marketing convergence, profitability, total revenue management, and all of those types of helpful assessments and consulting services and technology services, and basically anything else that you might need right now. So that's us. You can also find me on LinkedIn, of course, and we have some great content going on there, including this live marketing show that we publish every Friday.
And your amazing podcast.
Yes, and the podcast at thinkupenterprises.com. We've been doing our hospitality highlights series. So if you want to learn more about how different hoteliers are dealing with the pandemic with a variety of different types of hotels, please jump on there and listen in.
Outstanding. Now, for those that have left us, Ed in particular, you can reach him at Edward StOnge at Flip2, or I think it's Ed at Flip2 is actually his email address. If you want to know everything UCF college related, you can just follow him on Facebook. He'll tell you everything about that college. But Flip2, great program for advocacy and social engagement and so forth. Great program and platform for all that as well. Did we miss somebody else? I want to make sure I make. No, I think we. And of course, we know where Kat went, which is great. So forth. Okay, so a couple things. If you want to play this and all previous 266 episodes back, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. Look for show 267. And you'll find all the show notes, transcriptions. We translate this now in 11 languages. We also recast this out different time zones around the world due to all of our international people. We have people from Spain and from Malaysia today that was asking questions. There was a few other questions, Amy, I'm sorry, but they got answered in the dialogue, so I didn't throw them in there. Amazing that people watch at their time zones. Ben, we appreciate the fact that, what is this in Australia time? I don't know, but but anyways.
Hey, before we let you go, Lauren, we can't let you go just yet. Hang on. Happy birthday, Lauren.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday, Lauren.
I'm over the hill. Well, I'm almost over the hill. Next year will be a benchmark, but yeah, I got older. Yay. Yeah, thank you. With that also, we have the hospitality marketing podcast, which, Amy, thank you so much. You actually gave me my inspiration for the topic today, which is sales technology tools, because there are some interesting ones that are starter kits. By no means does it replace or come in comparison to what you do as a program, but these are some great CRM starter toolkits, like how can I coordinate my stuff? If you're talking about frequency and cadence and so forth, how do I organize? Because there's literally, you're absolutely right. No way somebody can do that with just writing it down or putting reminders in. Just, it doesn't work. So I'll throw those some tools in there from that. So thank you very much for the inspiration of that. Also, I'm announcing a new thing that's coming up in October that's coming from us. It's going to be a membership-related program. Dean is aware of it. Lily's aware of it. Ben, I got to tell you about it. Adele, I've already. What is it when you volunteer somebody without their knowledge? Voluntold. So Adele, you've already been voluntold. Ben, you've been voluntold. Yeah, I know you're already in. Just know that you're already into it. But it's going to be a really amazing, fun, cool stuff. Yes, I'll tell you all about it later. Adele, of course, I'll fill you in what I've dragged you into. So that'll be coming up. We'll tell you more details as the show progresses. Amy, again, thank you so much for taking all the time that you did. Thank you, Tim, for wishing me a happy birthday as well. Thank you. But Amy, please come back as many times as you can, for as long as you can. We would always enjoy your participation to this. Absolutely awesome, the insights that you gave for today. So thank you. And thank you, everyone else. We'll see you next Friday for show number 268, 11:30 Eastern U.S. time, Friday next week. So till then, thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Bye.